Let's dive into one of the biggest debates in German history, something that's crucial if you're studying this period. We're talking about the Weimar Republic, specifically the years from 1924 to 1929. On the surface, it looked like this incredible comeback story, a golden age. But was it real gold, or was it just Gilder, a thin, shiny layer hiding some serious problems underneath? That's what we're going to figure out. So that's the big question, right? Was this a genuine, solid recovery for Germany? Or was all that glitter and optimism just hiding some deep, deep cracks that were about to shatter the whole thing? We're going to weigh the evidence, look at both sides of the coin, and see what the real story was. Now, to really get why they even called it a golden age, you have to understand just how bad things were right before it. 1923 was pure chaos. Germany was in the grip of hyperinflation. People were using wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Your entire life savings could become worthless overnight. The country was, no exaggeration, on the verge of complete collapse. That's the mess that Chancellor Gustav Stresemann walked into.
So, Stresemann gets to work, and he moves fast. First things first, he tackles that insane hyperinflation by introducing a brand new, stable currency called the Rentenmark. But he also knew Germany couldn't fix this mess on its own, so his second big move was to negotiate something called the Dawes Plan. This basically got America involved, restructured Germany's war payments, and this is the crucial part, it opened the floodgates for American loans to pour into the country. That was the spark.
And with that foundation in place, well, things really started to look up. A lot. For the next few years, you can make a really, really strong case that Germany was having an unbelievable turnaround. So let's build that case. Let's look at all the evidence for this so-called golden age. What fueled this whole thing? Money. A lot of money. Thanks to that Dawes Plan, an incredible $25 billion in foreign loans, most of it from the US, flooded into Germany. It was like an adrenaline shot straight to the heart of the economy. It kickstarted industries, funded huge public works projects, and got the country moving again. And you can see the results right here. German industry just roared back to life. They built new factories, adopted modern assembly lines, and by 1929, Germany wasn't just back on its feet, it was producing 33% more than it did before the war. It was blowing past its old rivals like Britain and France, and becoming Europe's industrial powerhouse all over again. And this boom wasn't just about factory output. It actually started changing people's lives for the better. The Weimar government used this new wealth to build one of the most progressive welfare states in the world. Think about it. They brought in unemployment insurance, set up benefits for war veterans and single moms, and kicked off a massive housing program. Over 2 million new homes were built. This was real, tangible change that drastically cut homelessness. So for a lot of ordinary Germans, particularly if you worked in a factory, life was genuinely getting better. Your actual wages, what you took home, were going up. We're talking a 9% jump in 1927, and then another 12% in 1928. This made Germany's industrial workers the best paid in all of Europe. On the surface, things were looking pretty golden, right? But, and this is a huge but, here's where the story gets a whole lot more complicated. A recovery that pulls millions of people up is one thing, but what if huge chunks of your society get left behind? How golden is an age that only shines for some? This is where our investigation takes a sharp turn. Okay, so let's start to peel back that shiny gold paint. Because underneath all the booming factories and the rising wages, some pretty big problems were brewing. And for two major groups in German society, this era felt anything but golden. First up, we need to talk about the Mittelstand. This is a key term. It refers to Germany's professional middle class. The managers, the office clerks, the government workers. These were the people who had their life savings completely and totally wiped out by the hyperinflation in 1923. They came into this supposed boom time already broke and feeling betrayed. And this slide really shows you the tale of two Germanys that was emerging. While the factory workers were seeing their wages shoot up, the middle class was getting left in the dust. Their wages weren't rising, and they felt like the government was only looking out for the working class. A deep sense of resentment started to build. And look at this number. It really drives the point home. In just 1 month, April 1928, almost 184,000 middle-class professionals were officially looking for a job. And the worst part, nearly half of them didn't even qualify for those new state unemployment benefits. They were literally falling through the cracks of this new, celebrated welfare state. The other big group that was definitely not invited to the party was the farmers. They got hit by a perfect storm. They took on massive debt to modernize their farms, but then a worldwide drop in food prices meant they couldn't make enough to pay it back. By 1929, German farms were producing way less than before the war, and many farmers were losing everything, sparking desperate and angry riots across the countryside. So, how do you balance all this? Where does that leave us? On one hand, you have undeniable, incredible progress. But on the other, you have this deep, simmering anger from huge parts of the population. Let's try and pull all these threads together to reach a final verdict. You know, it's so easy for us to look back now and see the disaster that was coming. But check out this quote from the historian Francis Karsten. He makes a brilliant point. If you were standing there in 1928, things looked pretty stable. Votes for extremist parties like the Nazis had actually gone down. It looked like democracy was working. But it was all an illusion, hiding the bitterness of the middle class and the farmers, and anger that the Nazis were getting very, very good at tapping into. So here it is, our final balance sheet. In the for column, you've got amazing industrial growth, better pay for workers, a world-class welfare system, and what looked like political stability. But in the against column, you have an economy totally dependent on shaky foreign loans, a ruined middle class, a desperate farming sector, and a whole lot of resentment just waiting for a spark. Which brings us to the crucial takeaway here. The recovery in Weimar Germany was real, but it was fragile. It was built on borrowed money and it created divisions in society. It gave people an illusion of stability while alienating millions. So no, this wasn't really a golden age. It was a gilded age, a thin, shiny surface that looked great from a distance, but was hiding a deeply unstable reality that was just about to crack wide open.